Man, we got treated to a pretty good game tonight. I will tell you guys that. That was actually a really good game. It wasn't exactly like the massive shootout that I thought it could become. It wasn't like that Atlanta Falcons game and that Tampa Bay Buccaneers game a couple weeks back. It wasn't like rapid, quick strikes where offenses weren't on the field for very long. There was long, sustained drives in this one, but there was still tons of fantasy football, massive fantasy football games in this one. So we got to go over all the fantasy football news and the discussions about this game. This was a really fun game to watch. I really enjoyed this one. There was actually some really good defensive plays too. But we'll go ahead and start out with the Rams side of the ball by going through Matt Stafford first and foremost. First of all, Matt Stafford came through tonight in a big, big way. Hopefully you took advantage of him on Underdog because he was fantastic to play when you hit that projection that was at 0.5 total yards on Underdog. I hope you hit that because that was key. He was massive in this game. He threw 4 touchdowns tonight. He was absolutely incredible in fantasy football. And I don't know my thoughts for the future of Matt Stafford in fantasy football. Obviously, it's going to be tied to whether this can sustain itself with all those wide receivers being there, right? Like, that's obviously going to be a big deal to find out if this is actually sustainable or not. So it'll be interesting to see this one because, he did this against a really stout defense. He had Brian Flores frustrated throughout that game. I was watching that game and watching Brian Flores on the sidelines. He was frustrated as that defensive coordinator because he just couldn't figure out how to stop this passing game with Puka Nacua. It's so funny. 2 weeks straight now. 2 weeks straight. Last week, I was not big on Javonte Williams. He blew up and absolutely made me look stupid. And tonight, I had a couple people tell me, I'm playing Puka Nacua. I'm going all in on Puka Nacua. And I said, do it at your own peril, I guess. I don't know if I can totally trust Puka Nacua being back at full steam. Puka Nacua was excellent. He was so clearly their wide receiver one. I don't even think the stat line displays how clearly he was. 7 catches, 106 yards. That was Matt Stafford's guy tonight. Cooper Kupp was a good number 2. Like, he got in the end zone, so he had a good fantasy game as well. But Puka Nacua was the number 1 guy, for sure, for Matt Stafford. It wasn't particularly close to me, at the very least. Cooper Kupp did come up big at the end, especially with some key catches there, and he drew a key penalty closer to the end of that game. But Puka Nacua, this is definitely real. Puka, if you're new to fantasy this year, and this is your first time experiencing Puka, when he's fully healthy, this is what he can do. He could do more than this, too. He's going to get games where he gets in the end zone. 7 catches, 106 yards, but that's the type of performances that we saw last year when Puka Nacua broke onto the scene out of nowhere. So this is all par for the course. He looks pretty healthy tonight, and, part of my decision in telling people to sit Puka in certain situations tonight was because before the game I had saw, Sean McVay said, we're going to see how he looks in the warm-ups and everything, and that'll kind of dictate what his load is going to be like tonight. He was either messing with people's heads or he was blown away by him in the pregame because he was excellent tonight. He was totally fantastic. He looked completely healthy in this one. And again, Cooper Kupp being back at this level too. Cooper Kupp, I do believe that there will be weeks where he outscores Puka Nacua. But, Cooper Kupp, I do think at one point late in that game, when he went out of bounds, if you guys saw that, to stop the clock and give the Vikings another chance, Cooper Kupp looked like he got up a little slow. So that's just kind of par for the course, unfortunately, when it comes to Cooper Kupp, is that he just hasn't been able to stay healthy very much. So I've got my issues with Cooper Kupp still, but obviously when both these guys are healthy, you gotta play those guys. They cannot go on your bench. Dude, what is going on? Demarcus Robinson, 2 catches for 35 yards, and both catches were touchdowns. This guy did nothing without Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, and all of a sudden they come back and he gets 2 touchdowns. Obviously, I don't know a single soul who would have played Demarcus Robinson in a redraft league or a dynasty league, unless you're in a really deep league. But definitely good best ball play tonight. This is not something that I think you could rely on anytime soon. Like, Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, they're back and they're going to be those clear number 1 and 2s. With Demarcus Robinson, this was kind of a lucky game more than anything. That's kind of what it was. Kyren Williams, again, amazing. Nothing to see here, really. I mean, that's just kind of the honest truth. It's Kyren Williams is Kyren Williams, and he's really freaking good. 97 yards on the ground on 23 carries and 5 catches through the air with 19 yards and a touchdown. Kyren Williams is Kyren Williams. I mean, there's literally no other way to say this. He is just a fantastic must-start every week player. There's really not much to go over there. I guess the one takeaway I had with the running game is that Blake Corum did get involved, but he was largely ineffective. So I think the only thing I want to say about that is that I've had a lot of questions lately about, like, well, you know, should I still look at Blake Corum as a good handcuff back to Kyren Williams? And I say, listen, there's better handcuffs out there. Like, for example, in New York, if Breece Hall goes down, we know for a fact it's going to be Braylon Allen, right? So that's a great handcuff back. Without Travis Etienne, Tank Bigsby is a top-tier handcuff back. Tyrone Tracy Jr., excellent handcuff back. Blake Corum, like, he hasn't done much on his work, and I don't think that, I just don't think that personally, he may not even be the guy if he was to go down, right? Like, he may not even be the guy. So I don't think that Blake Corum is particularly worth rostering unless you're in a deep league and you do have Kyren, but I mean, you may be disappointed whenever they get to Ronnie Rivers time or something like that. And I just wanted to comment on the Rams defense really quick. The Rams defense in fantasy, like 7 fantasy points tonight, depending on your format you're playing in. They were a fine play. I mean, they are actually turning into a really potentially solid defense in fantasy football. I've got my eye on this one. Last week, obviously, they played the Raiders. That's a free week. They crushed the Raiders. This week, they played a really good, this was a playoff level game that they just played, and their defense kind of stifled Matt Stafford. Yeah, they stifled Matt Stafford. No, they stifled Sam Darnold for quite a bit of this game. Obviously, they got away with a cheap face mask at the end of that game. I mean, that was it was so clear and obvious, and that goes to another conversation I have, my own issues with the refs and everything like that, but I mean, it was such a clear face mask, and they got away with one for sure. But, I mean, they ended up doing pretty well in fantasy tonight, regardless of that safety. That was just obviously, you know, cherry on top of a pretty good performance. I'm going to be watching the Rams defense here. They may start to creep more into the top 12 as the weeks go by and we head towards the fantasy football playoffs. Now to the Vikings side of the ball. Sam Darnold was okay in fantasy. Like, he put up a 20-point night, right? Like, Sam Darnold, I told people to start him this week in a lot of situations, and I think that it paid off for a lot of people. 20 fantasy points is nothing to scoff at. I mean, 240 yards, 18 completions on 25 attempts, 2 touchdowns. He still looks relatively good. He looked small in comparison to Stafford tonight, but he definitely was slinging the ball around quite a bit. I mean, Sam Darnold looked pretty good for the most part, especially early in that game. And then as the game went on, I think the Rams defense kind of figured out what they were doing. Because, listen, Kevin O'Connell, the head coach over in Minnesota, well, he was under Sean McVay for a while. He was under him for a while, coaching in Los Angeles. So chances are really good. Sean McVay knew what, you know, O'Connell's tendencies were, and he figured them out. So Sam Darnold, he actually looked really good for all things considered. Aaron Jones was okay. It wasn't Aaron Jones' best game, obviously. 19 carries, 58 yards, 3.1 yards per carry. Had a big catch at some point. I think it was like early third or something like that in that game. He had a good matchup with the linebacker. Got 2 catches for 37 yards. Aaron Jones was okay tonight. I mean, that's really the best thing that I could take away from it. I mean, he didn't kill you. He's not going to win your week, though, that's for sure. I wouldn't look too deep into this with Aaron Jones. As long as Aaron Jones is able to get out there, then I've got confidence in putting him in my fantasy lineup. I mean, he's very important in this offense. He got 21 total touches today. I mean, Ty Chandler is a non-factor in this offense. It's all Aaron Jones. So that should not be a question that creeps into your mind. Aaron Jones is still a must-start guy every single week. Justin Jefferson doing Justin Jefferson things. That dude, he had some serious catches, man. I mean, honestly, like he looked really good. I mean, he's just Jefferson. Like literally, I hope people appreciate what we're watching with him. The only thing I'll say is, like, that guy has a chance to be one of the best receivers over the last, 30 years. I mean, he is so freaking good. 8 catches, 115, literally just Justin Jefferson doing Justin Jefferson things. That's all it is. So, Jordan Addison is another big takeaway. Man, it's not working. This was my fear. As soon as I saw that they went to Sam Darnold at quarterback, is that I didn't think that Sam Darnold was going to be able to support 2 legitimate wide receivers. And he can't, right? Like, he can't do that. It's Justin Jefferson, and cross your fingers that Jordan Addison gets in the end zone. I mean, there were several balls that he threw to Addison tonight that were just underthrown. Like, specifically to Addison, especially late in the game. So it's not like Addison stinks. I mean, he doesn't. And I'm not saying that Darnold stinks and he can't be relied upon. He can be relied upon to get Justin Jefferson the ball. And that's all people really need, is that their first-round pick is being supplied with fantasy opportunities. But when it comes to Jordan Addison, I don't have a ton of confidence moving forward, because I told some people to play him tonight, and that was painful to watch. I mean, it doesn't get much more obvious as I watch Sam Darnold and Jordan Addison. It's like, obviously, they're going to target Justin Jefferson into oblivion. Ad nauseum, they will target Justin Jefferson. My hope was at some point that we could see Sam Darnold develop 2 wide receiver chemistry, and it just hasn't happened. I mean, it's not only a chemistry issue, it's just I don't think Sam Darnold's good enough to support that. There's some quarterbacks in the league that can support 2 wide receivers in fantasy. There's other quarterbacks that can't. Stafford can. Darnold can't. So that's my big takeaway with Darnold, is that good fantasy player himself, good start at quarterback, and I think that one's sustainable. And I also think he's great for Justin Jefferson. Is he great for everybody else? No. And that should really worry people who are trying to get TJ Hawkinson back. I mean, honestly, like that, I don't see this being TJ Hawkinson's best year. Obviously, he's already coming off a big injury that he suffered late last year. But overall, I just think that this is not, it's not like he's coming into a Kirk Cousins-led team where Kirk Cousins can supply a bunch of different guys with touches. It's just not the case here, man. It's just not the case. So a little disappointing with Jordan Addison. It'll be a while before I feel confident about telling people to play Addison right now. It just isn't there with 2 wide receivers in Minnesota. Obviously, their defense wasn't very good either. I think they ended the game with 0 points. Listen, you play a top-tier offense like this, you're going to have a bad game sometimes. Like, they played a top-tier offense last week, and they got a defensive touchdown. Don't read too far into this for the Vikings defense. There's still going to be a good play, a great play, in a lot of weeks that they play. They're going to be a fantastic play. You just got to hang in there with them. I mean, this is the Cowboys defense from last year. They are startable every week, but they will have their bad weeks, and you got to ride them out, right? So this is exactly the reason why that I don't endorse sticking with a defense all year. Now, the problem is, obviously, there are lots of people who do that, and so if you drop the Vikings defense, someone will pick them up and they won't let them go. But this is the reason why I don't love, I like to stream defenses. That's my thing, is I like to stream defenses. That's a big reason why I come out with top 12 defense rankings once a week. Because I know a thing or two about defense in fantasy, and also because it's a good idea to stream because there's weekly streaming options, like the Rams last week, who come in and they do great in fantasy. So Vikings defense is going to be fine. They're going to have a lot more games that are really good, much better than this. This is their worst game of the year by far as a defensive unit in fantasy football. Don't take it too personally, and don't take it too close to heart. The moment that I found out that they got Puka Nacua back, the Vikings dropped pretty much outside of my top 12. I think they were, I'll have to look back, but I think I had them at either 12 or 13. So they dropped, because you get 2 wide receivers of that caliber back in your room, it's just not going to be it's not going to be as easy to stop as it would have been with just Cooper Kupp tonight. So the Vikings defense, they're going to be fine. They're going to be just fine. don't worry about this one too much. But I think that does it for the night, guys. I appreciate y'all joining the post-game reaction here. Drop a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel on your way out if you haven't done so already. And I'll see you guys in tomorrow's must-start and sit defense video. And also on the start-sit defense, on the start-sit wide receiver and running backs videos coming out on Saturday. Peace out, guys. Enjoy the rest of y'all's night.